You're listening to Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Overdoing It, where our team of library workers dish about their latest reads, views, and passions alongside fascinating conversations with local luminaries. I am your host, Emily Goodman of the Office of Library and Information Services, and my pronouns are she, her. Let's dive in and discover who our guests are today.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Kyrie Shivers. I'm from Providence, Rhode Island, born and raised from the North End. Um, and I
Great.
use he and him as pronouns.
A little bit later in our show, we'll talk with Kyrie about the Cooperative PVD flowers and the Cannabis Act of Rhode Island. But first, let's start off like we always do with what have you been reading?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to
You
show
have
you.
it.
Yes.
Cool.
This was a book given to me by a friend that since passed.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
me and this person used to actually talk a lot about like manifestation, understanding your purpose, and things that you basically wanted to accomplish in
Okay,
life.
so I'm going to pause real quick and just explain to our readers. The title is The World is Yours, The Awakening. Excellent. The secrets behind quote unquote the secret. Okay, so keep going. Have you
Yes,
finished it? Because I want to know what the secret is.
this is the book. So I am still currently reading it.
Okay.
I circled back just to read it. And it is by Curtis Lee Thomas. Just for anyone that may want to indulge or actually look into this book. Basically, what the book kind of talks about is actually like understanding what it is that you're manifesting. How do you get to that point of manifestation, and how do you capture that moment to actually capitalize on finding your greater purpose? So, kind of just goes along with what I envisioned on, with the cooperative and the vision that I have of what we can be in the future. So I kind of dive back into this guy.
Gotcha. So do you manifest and what does that look like to you?
So a majority of the time, sometimes I just write things down that I'm looking to accomplish, or maybe I might have like maybe like a notepad or something that I like to jot things in, or just think about it throughout the day, or constantly repeat things to myself that I do want to do, and that's just reminding myself as a buffer to kind of be like, you know what, you can accomplish, Matt. You can do that and you can get it done. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but over time, it will get done and it will happen.
I love that. I recently was reading, so I'm doing a little bit about financial literacy for myself, never having really looked into investing and trying to create a nest egg, but it becomes ever pressing that I think I might have to. And so I've been reading this book, and the author talks about the book is called Financial Feminist, and she talks about um, manifesting your financial goals and writing it as though they have happened. So like in a journal, you would write something like, I'm so glad that I have like $100,000 in my savings. And you just write that as though it has already happened. And that is how she has manifested her success. So I think it's really interesting. I haven't really thought a lot about manifesting, but I'm interested in how people accomplish that for themselves. It's cool.
Yeah, no, that's definitely cool. Yeah, there's many ways and there's different roads that you can take to actually get there. It's just what I find for me is something having something written down that I can periodically look at
Hmm.
times or circle back and be like, you know what, you're right, Kyrie. You need to do that.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So, do you also set sort of goals or intentions for the year? I know we're well past New Year, but I'm interested also in how people sort of think about chunks
so
of time in their life.
So for me personally, I don't really try to set too many goals. I kind of just like go based off of how I feel about
Mm,
something and what is the work that I need to do to accomplish that task. And then that those things will get jotted down and then I would hammer them out one by one, depending on what needs immediate attention to actually, accomplish that goal.
Well, thank you for sharing that and your ideas about manifestation. I love that. So I mentioned I have sort of on again, off again been working my way through this book called Financial Feminist, but I've also recently been reading a young adult um, historical thriller. This is a new thing for me. It's part of a book club that I'm in, and it's called Artifice. It's about um, the time in World War II when the Nazis were invading in Denmark and stealing or collecting all of the great works of art for their special museum. And so this is a Danish, yeah, I think it's Danish, woman whose father was an artist and he has forged some things, and so she's trying to sell forgeries the to the Germans. It's part of what they call the Dutch resistance, which I don't know anything about, but I'm sort of learning a little bit about through this book. It's been interesting so far. I'm only about a third of the way through, so we haven't hit too many of the plot twists yet, but it's been really interesting. Yeah.
That sounds like a cool read.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why I like book clubs sometimes. I'm working through um, pushing back against being told what to read, which I felt like was my entire youth, especially in school, and kind of embracing like having to read new things that I probably wouldn't pick for myself, and discovering them that way. So yeah,
Yeah, I haven't ever been a part of any like book clubs myself. Most of my reads are like on my own.
yeah,
Maybe something that might have been given to me or something that I'm just like, you know what, I might take a read at this. And
hmm
but most stuff that I've read is like stuff that people feel like, hey, this could be useful for your path that you're taking.
hmm Is it
Give it a try.
mostly nonfiction? Do you think?
I would say nonfiction books. I
Yeah.
do enjoy a good murder mystery book, but
hmm
that's neither here nor there. But it all depends about timing and the stuff that I have going on. So I have
That's
to put
fair.
my focus in on manifesting a dream of making what we call PVD flowers
Nice.
come
Oh, and you're
true.
wearing the shirt. He is wearing the
Yeah,
shirt.
I'm
Which
trying.
you sell merchandise, right? Is that we'll kind of talk a little bit more about what it all is, but is that true that you have a shop where people can buy some of your merchandise?
Not this shirt in
Not that one.
particular,
Okay.
but we do have merch on our Wix page, and our Wix page is connected to our website, which you can find at pvd-flowers.com.
Okay. And we'll put that in the show notes for sure. So what have you been watching? Have you been watching anything good, or are you not much of a TV guy?
Oh man, I watch a lot of
Great.
crime shows. A lot of crime shows, man. Like I love, like, they're not realistic shows, but I do love like shows that are like The Wire. So I've been
hmm
watching like a lot of Power. Um I've been watching like old movies, so that's my deal. I definitely love like anything from like the 80s to the early 90s. That's my spill on
Like
stuff.
crime movies from the 80s and early 90s, or just any
Yes.
movie?
And
Okay.
any movie from like the 80s and 90s, but crime movies more so to speak. So like they can be like, stuff that's related to like kind of like John Wick. So I watch a lot of assassination movies. You know, stuff that stuff that's very graphic at times, but maybe is not everyone's cup of tea, but I love it.
Okay, if you had to pick one from, let's say, the 80s, one crime movie from the 80s, what is your top pick?
To be honest, I probably would have to go with like Bad Boys
Okay.
with Sean Penn.
hmm A classic.
Yes, for sure. That I love that movie. There's nothing that someone could tell me about that movie that I would be like, yeah, I agree. No, I love that movie. You can't tell me nothing about it.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna see real quick. What is its Rotten Tomatoes rating?
I wonder. I'm not
Boy.
sure.
Okay, the Fresh Audience rates it a 78%, or it's rated 78% of people in the. I don't know how um, Rotten Tomatoes works. I think it's like a yes or a no thing. So it's got 78% on the popcorn meter, as they call it, but only 43% critically reviewed on the tomato reader. But that feels
Yeah,
pretty good. 78% of
I
people
th-
sounds
I
like a
think
good
the
number.
78% sounds great to me. I'll take it as the other 43
There you
don't
go.
don't really know what they're talking about. But
They haven't actually watched it.
no, they didn't watch it. They skimmed the movie. They didn't enjoy it as much as everyone else did. That's a problem.
That's
Maybe they should
funny.
watch it again.
I've watched a lot of crime shows or more like, I guess they're crime shows, the cop procedurals, like, I've watched a lot of Bones in my life, and I'm currently watching on Paramount Plus, and I subscribe to Paramount Plus only for Jeopardy, and then they have sucked me in with some other things. But
That's
there's a
how
new
it usually
show.
goes.
I also was only going to have it for 3 months, and then I kept it. But I've been watching the new Matlock show. I guess it's not really like the new. It's not really a remake of Matlock. So it stars Kathy Bates as this older woman who is trying to solve her own case, and so she gets a job in a very high powerful lawyer office, and like tells them that she used to be a lawyer, that she is not related to, right, the original Matlock on TV, but has the same name, and she like uses her elderliness and sort of people's psychology and like ideas of who people are based on their looks, um, in order to be good, like be a good lawyer, I guess. Is her whole thing. It's pretty interesting, but it's certainly not gory. There's no depictions of the actual crimes. It's all afterwards. They're like they're defending people in court and that kind of stuff. But it's good.
Yeah, no, I can enjoy shows like that as well. It's because I love like a badass courtroom scene to where a lawyer's just hammering away at the defense, and it's just like golly. So yeah, I can see why you love the show.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
be
yeah.
honest, I might have to give it a look too
Yeah.
because I've seen it a few times, but I never like thought about watching it. I just saw like a
Mm,
preview of the show.
gotcha. That happens to me a lot where I just see a preview over and over and over again, but I've never seen it. And right now, that's like the new Watson. That's also, this is not a advertisement for Paramount Plus. I just happened to see it there, um, which I think could be interesting. I've watched like all the other Sherlock Holmes things. Yeah,
I definitely enjoyed like the first Sherlock Holmes movie that they
yeah.
came out with, so it was definitely a dope thing.
Is that? Oh man, I'm so bad at this. Is that Patrick Dempsey who
I
played?
forgot exactly. I I know this. I know the movie came back like came out back in like I want to say like 20 maybe 11. It was a while ago since
Yeah, it
I
looks like
watched it.
2009. And this is
Oh,
why I'm
I'm way
terrible at
off.
actors and actresses. Robert Downey Jr. is the person that I am talking about. So it's Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law play Sherlock and Watson.
That's what it was. Okay.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I don't think that I've seen that one. I'll have to go back and find it.
Really?
Yeah, I got really into the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock when that came out. I think
So
around
I
the
never
same
watched
time.
that.
Okay, that one's good. I recommend it.
All right. So maybe
I,
maybe I can put it in a list of stuff that's needs to be watched that I
yeah,
haven't quite watched yet. But
yes. And you'll love it. It is very of its time. They have like special graphics that show text messages on the screen, and it is very clearly an early version of a iPhone.
Oh, really?
Yep, it definitely dates itself, but it's good. Okay, anything else that you have been enjoying that you really want to talk about today? Anything you came in here burning passions?
Um, nothing really much that I really
Okay.
been doing. Just mainly been focused on like the cooperative and kind of just hammering away at stuff to make sure we can accomplish our dream.
All right, cool. So we're going to turn it over to our main section and talk a bit about cooperatives in Rhode Island. So, for new listeners, this episode is something of a continuation of a series of episodes on cooperatives that we produced as Rhody Radio, and I will link those past episodes in the show notes. But I want to provide a little bit of background for today. In 2017, the Rhode Island General Assembly passed an act to update the general laws governing corporations, associations, and partnerships to the state that any corporation may elect to be governed as a workers' cooperative. This bill changed the landscape of businesses in Rhode Island. Worker owned cooperatives allow employees to be the driving force for business decisions through a democratic process, ensure workers are adequately paid for their work, and funnel profits into the workers' pockets rather than passing those up to a sole proprietor or CEO who may not be a local member of the community. It opened the doors for more Rhode Islanders to participate in the local business economy and diversifies the landscape of business owners. In 2022, with the legalization of marijuana, Rhode Island passed the Rhode Island Cannabis Act, the most progressive in the country, which created 6 retail licenses that can only be held by worker owned cooperatives. Today, we've invited Kyrie to talk about his work connected to this act, the group Rhody Co op, which is instrumental in getting the act passed, and PVD Flowers, which is working to become one of the 6 licensed retailers. So, Kyrie, can you first give our listeners some context about who you are and how you personally came to be positioned as one of these 6 cooperative cannabis retailers in Rhode Island?
Yeah. So I knew a guy named Roberto Pena. Roberto spent a lot of time at the state house, kind of helping getting these laws passed, along with a few other people from the Rhode Island Justice Coalition, like Zara Solomon. Um, and Rob basically came to me one day with an idea of like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but this bill has passed in Rhode Island, giving us the opportunity to formalize a co-op in the cannabis industry and give us the opportunity to actually capitalize, but also make a difference in that community by offering workers the idea of understanding what it means to run a business, but also having that capital. So at that point, it was a no brainer for me. I mean, I'm also positive for like cannabis. I definitely think it does have a lot of benefits. So at that point, why not get involved? It's a dream to be in the industry as well, just from a legal standpoint. I come from a side of town or a neighborhood in Providence to where a lot of that was like I've saw people go to jail behind it. People didn't really get the opportunities of like a fair shot at being in the industry to actually see what we can make of it, so to speak. And at that point, I had to be a part of a vision that it was more than just me selling someone cannabis. It was me actually being a part of something that creates generational wealth, but also opportunities for folks in our community that may have been, incarcerated for these reasons. So,
Why, to you, is it important that we have cooperative cannabis retailers in Rhode Island?
so for one, it's the sustainability aspect of it. Worker retention. A lot of the things with current dispensaries, there's a lot of turnover with employees. Maybe an employee doesn't feel as appreciated. They don't feel as valued at the workspaces that they may work at. With with being a cooperative, it gives the opportunity for you to actually dictate the workspace of which you work in, while being a part of a team of a collaborative effort that sees you as a owner, not just as a worker himself.
And how does that model sort of set a company like PVD Flowers apart from others within the industry?
Yeah, so one thing, we can retain our workers, but also we're also given an educational piece to the people, to who may not be privy to what it means to actually own a business or make decisions within a company that dictate how your business is ran. With having opportunities like that available to folks while also pushing a narrative of having like generational wealth for later down the line, I mean, we feel like you can't lose at that point, you know? You're teaching something, you're giving the people something that they always wanted and putting it right there in their face on the table for them to
Mm.
decide, like, hey, let's be a part of this effort. Let's change the narrative of what cannabis is seen as. So I think that's what separates us most. A lot of people look at cannabis as like a drug. We look at it as health benefits, changing the narrative around it. People, I have family members that have back problems, different pains, or may have like, eye vision problems as well. And then this is stuff that cannabis helps support. So it's also teaching and educating people on the benefits of what it could be.
Yeah. So that leads me to the question of what's your vision for PVD Flowers when you get established?
So our vision for PVD Flowers is having like a close community backing. So that means even doing things in the community, but also taking some of the capital that we make and giving it back through fundraisers, different events, or maybe we may want to build some things in the community like coffee shops and stuff like that, of that nature, that is ran by people of the community itself.
Mm. And as far as I understand, the application is still not open. Is that true?
Yeah, the
Okay.
application process has not been available yet.
All right. So, can you talk a little bit about what the process has been like for getting these six cooperatives established and maybe where you are in that process?
Yeah. So, there's been a lot of work. We've been working on this project for over 3 years now. I want to say about like 2.5, going on 3 years now. And it's a lot. I mean, a lot of stuff is still like federally illegal for us, and for everyone in the industry in general. So we had to jump through like a lot of hoops and hurdles to kind of get established, but also setting up accounts and stuff like that. It's been rough, but it's also been fun in a way, because you're on this mission and you're on this journey that you don't know what road it is going to take you down. And it's so exciting because you're understanding everything as you go. You may not have the most industry experience, but you're learning from people that are in the industry. You're having these cool conversations, you're building out your team, and then you're establishing closer connections with people that could prove beneficial for you and your team later on down the line. So it's been a journey.
Yeah. And so there are other players, as I understand, helping PVD Flowers and the other interested organizations who want to apply to be these cooperatives. So some of those are Co-op Rhode Island or Co-op Rhody, and the Rhode Island Cooperative Alliance. Can you talk about those organizations and kind of what they're doing to support you and the other organizations?
Yeah, for
And this whole
sure.
ecosystem around the cooperative cannabis industry in Rhode Island.
Yeah, so what what Co-op Rody is doing is kind of, looking to kind of get people that are looking to start, a worker owner cooperative that wants to get into the cannabis industry, they're helping with the educational piece of it. So that can be providing your team members with any sort of training that may be needed. Maybe your team needs to understand how to write bylaws, different understandings of how to structure your team. These are all pieces that Co-op Roti is kind of helping, but also giving their financial support as well to these groups. So it's very awesome, to be quite honest. And for someone to even sacrifice any type of revenue, that they can keep for their company as a whole, but willing to dish it out to other groups so they can be successful is always a blessing.
Yeah. So one of the other organizations that's working in this effort is Break the Cycle Cooperative Hub. Can you talk about their work and how you're connected with them as well?
So I'm connected with Break the Cycle through a fellow named David Allen, which we refer to as Bear. Bear has been working with Co-op Roti to kind of help the groups keep groups on track on things that they need to be doing, but also using any type of support that he can to support every group that's a part of a cooperative.
So there are 6 slots for these cooperative cannabis shops opening up. Can you talk at all about maybe the other cannabis co-ops that are hoping to get one of the other slots and what that ecosystem is like as you all prepare for the applications to open?
Yeah, so I think there's a few groups that have been working in great alliance, aligning with what PVD Flowers has been doing as well. Like one group that I'm on calls with constantly is Roots of Hope.
Mhm.
Roots of Hope is another cannabis cooperative that's looking to start a dispensary here in Rhode Island. Great people. And the one thing that we stress with each other is sharing resources with each other. you know, we feel like if one person wins or if we all win, we it's a win regardless. It's a win for everyone.
Mm.
So I think that's more of what we've been trying to back on these phone calls with each other and the other orgs that also are on the calls. I can't speak for them
Mhm.
too much just because I only know certain people within their organizations, but I don't know how they run and
Yeah,
function with their team.
that makes sense.
But I'm in close talks with
Mhm.
Roots of Hope because we're constantly just exchanging information.
Is there anything else that you think that I should ask you? So that my final question for you is how can people follow along the journey? But is there any other sort of like logistics about getting established as a cooperative in this industry that I sort of haven't asked about that you would like to touch on?
Yeah, I think the first thing is like establishing your team.
Yeah.
Obviously, like with this, it's a long journey, so you want to make sure that people are locked in for the long run. you know I've seen teams drop off, people come together, and then people decide like halfway through like, hey, this isn't for me. I don't think I can give you 2 to 3 years of my life down the line,
Mhm.
and there's not much movement. You need a supporting team, but also a team that understands each other's strengths and weaknesses and understands how you guys are going to get to the next level. And then once those things are really established, roles are defined, like as far as like establishing like a steering committee and having roles mapped out for who's responsible for what. You pretty much can go to the state, file your articles of corporation to get situated. Maybe you might want to involve a lawyer in that type of process because it can be a very, crazy type deal. But for the most part, it's motivation and it's just having that strong backing and a strong team behind you that believes in the vision. That that's mainly it. I mean, if you don't have those things, you will not succeed in this industry as I progress with the team that I have.
So, how did you go from that initial call that let you know that this was happening, that there were going to be this opportunity for cooperative cannabis shops to getting this really solid team?
Well, one of the first things that we did was once we figured out, like, had the conversation, figured out who was going to be a part of the team, we actually went through like a 6 week training on cooperatives
Hmm.
so I can get a better perspective on what a worker owner cooperative was. And then once I've like got the information, it was pretty much a no brainer from there. It was like, you know what? Why do I have to build someone else's dream my whole life? I can build a dream with a team that I can also own it as well. Shoot. At that point, I'm locked in. And and it's not for everyone. A lot not everyone wants to own something in life, but for me personally, I always had a dream of owning stuff. But not just anything, different ventures in life, but also to be a part of the cannabis industry as well.
Mm.
That was also a goal of mine. So,
So, how can people follow along in this journey, both of PVD flowers, but also of cooperative cannabis shops in Rhode Island?
yeah. So we do have an Instagram page and also a website. Our Instagram handle would be PVD Flowers, RI on Instagram. And then our website is pvd flowers.com. And basically on our website, we have a ton of information, basically letting you know the efforts that was taken, how this dream came about, and how you can get involved if anyone chooses to be a part of this journey to move forward. We're always looking for folks. We're always looking to kind of, um, there's strength in numbers, right? So the more people we can have on board with this journey and this dream and goals that we have of establishing these cooperatives, we're going to look better and we're going to shine bright. Simple and plain.
So, there's no cap to the number of people who can start a cooperative.
No, there's no number on that. Um Obviously, like with license wise, there's a cap there. Just because there's only 6,
Hmm.
but there's no set on who's getting them.
Hmm.
And like I said before, one of the teams gets the license, we get the license to where we all won, you know, where it's just one step that takes the next step that makes a bigger thing. So,
Well, we will link all of your information in the show notes, and we'll also share some information about Co-op Roti so people can learn a little bit more about the overarching um, journey of cooperative cannabis shops in Rhode Island. All
thank you.
right. So we wrap up the show with a segment that we call the last chapter, where we talk about a library or bookish related question. I have personally been thinking a lot about the future recently, for obvious reasons, but also professionally, and particularly what our communities might look like or have sort of as standard practice in the future. And so I thought that I would ask you today, what is something that you would like to see in your local library 50 years from now? That's like not, it won't feel new then, it will just be commonplace. So, what are you manifesting for your future library in your community?
I would like to see more of the youth in there. To be quite honest, having more people. I know, like when I was younger, the library was a big deal. Um, there wasn't like comp- we didn't have computers at home. There wasn't like a set bookshelf all the time that we can go to, and we had a lot of like maybe schoolwork to do. For me, I mean, going to the library was like it was cool in a sense because I got to use the computers, but I would also see friends there, take movies from there, and a lot of now I don't really see a lot of people there like I used to. You might go in there for a second or maybe briefly to where you might see maybe 2 people in there, maybe 3. It's not to where there was sometimes a wait to get on the computers. Like it's not like that no more, and that's disheartening to me because I know the values that it has. It's, trust me, nothing more scarier than someone having a library card. Education is key. So,
So I went in a very different direction, obviously, because I think about this a lot and I'm in libraries a lot. And so you can tell me if you'd be interested in this. I envision this sort of like simulator pod for careers, as we're sort of talking about. Right, you're at the forefront of what's going to be potentially a very commonplace career here in Rhode Island, is being part of a cooperative cannabis shop. And so I think about this thing, it's sort of like an AR VR pod where people go into this thing and choose from a list maybe of potential careers that they could do, um, and it transports them to a time and place in their own future, where they know all of the information, they know how to do the job, they know everything that they need to do, and sort of temporarily sets them in a place where that is their reality. And people can reflect on, like, does that feel good? What does that look like for your life in the future? Do you find it fulfilling? Does it fit what your ethos is? And then as you leave this pod, if you liked that experience and you're like, yeah, I'm interested in potentially looking at what that would be like in the future, then it would automatically provide you a bunch of resources for where to get training and make next steps for that in your career. So would that have helped you, maybe 15 years ago, to know that you could have had this upcoming career that you're going to manifest?
listen, if they have that at a freaking library, the line better be out the door. Cause I'm going to use that thing. What? That's a crazy vision, my friend.
There you go. That's my dream. 50 years from now, we'll see if it comes true.
Hey, listen. You can also be the creator of it as well.
Yeah, hey, look at that. I will need definitely a really good team of tech people to help me build it. So I'm recruiting. There's my recruit call.
Hey, with all the AI going on around there, I don't even think you may need a tech team. You might be able to just do that.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, that's our show. Thank you, Kyrie, for coming on and chatting with us a bit about PVD flowers and cannabis in Rhode Island.
Nah, I appreciate you having me, Emily, and it's been great. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll speak soon, my friend.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to respond to the last chapter question or reach out to the show, send us an email at overdoingitpod@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at overdoingitpod. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help us reach more Rhode Islanders. Overdoing It is proud to be a resident partner of the Rhode Island Center for the Book and is brought to you by library staff and community members all around the Ocean State. The project has been funded in part by the Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services. Thank you again for listening. This has been another episode of Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library Podcast. We are overdoing it, but you're doing just fine. Let me structure this in my mind. Sorry, if you also see me sort of like twirling, my dog is like demanding that I kick his ball while I'm doing this, and I'm doing it for him so that he stays quiet. So my mind is
You
on a slightly, where is the ball that
you
I'm being asked to kick?
you are completely fine, my
So
friend. Trust me. I know how
it's
things
like
are because I am.
you're like,
Yeah.
he's usually so good and he lays down and but for some reason, like, sometimes he can tell when my attention is elsewhere and he's like, right now is the time that I need you. Pay attention to me. I'm like, okay.